Hi everyone, it's Jaden. Welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'm going to kind of do an updated video on the symptom of the adrenaline rushes that we experience with adrenal fatigue and HPA axis dysfunction, anxiety disorder. All these things are kind of interrelated, at least for me, through my health crash experience. And it is also another very common symptom, very much like the trembling and shaking symptoms that I have made quite a few videos on. And so there's a lot of questions always around these, and it seems like there's a lot of interest and also want or desire for more information from my viewers on these few symptoms. So I just thought I'd do another one because I want to provide you guys with as much information through my own experience as I can, so that I could help you on your own recovery journey. As always, I am not a doctor or a nurse or a therapist, and please, I do not replace one for you. Definitely, I encourage you to please go and get checked out by your doctor or your preferred medical professional before taking on any health advice. These are just my experience, my understanding, my own research that I'm honestly sharing with you guys in hopes of, reassurance, information, and peace of mind kind of thing. But always check with your medical professional. So with that said, let's just get right into the adrenaline rush symptom. Our adrenals, and again, this is from my research, that they are kind of responsible for quite a few hormones in our body, and a few of those hormones are adrenaline and cortisol, or two of those important hormones are adrenaline and cortisol. So cortisol has many functions as well, but it's one of the main functions is it kind of counteracts stress. Okay, so if we're going through stress, your body's going to produce a lot of cortisol to kind of cope with stress. It's also one of the most anti-inflammatory hormones of our body. So if you're injured or if you had surgery or something like that and your body's inflamed, your body's going to produce cortisol. Your adrenals are going to produce cortisol to, again, counteract the effects of the inflammation. So if you live a chronic lifestyle like I did, and let's say you got, on top of that, you injured yourself with chronic sports injuries or whatnot, like I did, your cortisol is going to go like overdrive, right? For long periods of time, which our bodies are not really designed to produce or be in that state for so long. So your adrenals are going to work overtime producing cortisol, counteract stress because you're chronically stressed, and then on top of that you got injuries, so you got inflammation, so then there's more cortisol produced to kind of counteract the inflammation. And now your adrenals are starting to get imbalanced until eventually they become so imbalanced that there's an issue, which is when you hit your health crash or adrenal fatigue or HPA axis dysfunction or whatever you want to call this chronic stress-induced, lifestyle-induced type of health imbalance. So once that happens, the functions of the adrenals are suboptimal. So then, let's say it can no longer produce the kind of cortisol that your body needs, right? But it still needs to produce something, because when your body's under stress, it needs to respond with hormones to counteract so it doesn't get, completely out of hand. So then what the adrenal does is it will produce more adrenaline, because that's also another hormone that it produces. But adrenaline has a very different feel and effect on your body. So while cortisol, when it produces cortisol to counter stress, you feel pretty normal. But when it's imbalanced and now it has to produce more adrenaline in the place of cortisol to counter stress, you are going to have, out of nowhere, adrenaline rushes. Okay, and that's what happened to me. And it will happen in the most relaxed or the most exhausting of times. So think about when you're stressed out the most, you're pretty fatigued, right? So like you're not highly energized. So, and when you're fatigued, you can kind of zone out. So some people will kind of, I guess, relate to this zoned out fatigue experience as like calm or even relaxed. Even myself back then, I was confused with this. So I thought, why am I getting these adrenaline rushes when I'm relaxed, right? That just doesn't make sense, because if adrenaline is caused by fight or flight, I wasn't in a fight or flight mode. Well, like I've mentioned in other videos, when you have adrenal fatigue and this type of health imbalance, it's not just mental anxiety, right? So the symptoms are gonna come in different directions than they would if you just had mental anxiety triggers. This is physiological as well as mental. So because you're fatigued and your adrenals out of whack from chronic stress, it's now producing adrenaline in the place of cortisol to counteract stress. So when you're stressed and feeling fatigued and drained and, you know, calm or relaxed, but you're really just fatigued, your body's pumping out adrenaline to cope with the stress. So now you're gonna get these adrenaline rushes out of nowhere when you're relaxed, and it doesn't feel good, and it's very scary for the first few times that happens. It's like, you know, a lot of times it will also induce a panic attack, because adrenaline, it's almost a panic attack. And when it's caught you by surprise and it caused you to have more panic, and of course you're going into a panic attack. So people with adrenal fatigue, we all know what adrenaline rushes feel like. You know, it's that sudden pounding of your heart rate. You are like in a fight or flight. You are just charged up. It will kind of result in trembling because you're pumped, you know, you're full of adrenaline. So that can then bleed into the whole trembling and shaking symptom as well. I totally relate. I've read countless comments, emails, and my own Facebook group. Like, this is definitely a symptom that we all struggled with. And it can be very scary, and it could also just cause a lot of fears to come up, because it's the unknown and it's such a common symptom with so many other like serious health conditions. So it's definitely will cause a lot of like fear. And if you're fearful, you're going back into the loop of anxiety, and it's going to cause more, you know, stress response. So again, that's that, you know, rabbit hole, that vicious downward spiral thing that I always talk about on my channel. Me sharing this information, I hope that it will help you to get a grasp in those moments. Just knowing that somebody else out there has gone through this, has recovered from it, and has, you know, is sharing the same symptoms as you are at the time. That really helped me. And of course, check with your doctor first. You don't want to leave serious conditions that might be there undiagnosed. So go get checked out first, give yourself that peace of mind, and then focus on, you know, all these other stuff that I've shared on my channel and your own research as well. As my adrenals and my whole body started to heal gradually throughout the phases of my health crash recovery, these symptoms lessen, because as your adrenal gets healthier and it's recovering, and it does take time, it's not overnight, you will, you know, they can produce more and more of the correct hormones at the right time, so then you will feel this less and less. Another thing that the adrenals do with cortisol is that it brings your blood sugar back up when you are low. So think about that. Now, let's say you just ate, or let's say you ate and then you have a long gap of time between your that meal and your next one. If your adrenals were healthy, they carry you through to the next meal. But if they're not healthy, they're gonna pump out adrenaline in the place of cortisol to bring the blood sugar back up. And guess what that's gonna do to you when you're hungry? You're gonna go into an adrenaline rush, panic attack. So that explains a lot of these like out of nowhere, you know, symptoms, panics, trembling, heart rate, adrenaline rushes. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this video and it brought you some information. Haven't checked out my other videos, definitely do that. I've put out tons of information on this subject. Check out my Facebook group. Help me continue to grow my audience by subscribing, clicking the thumbs up like button, as well as sharing my content with those others that you think might benefit from the information I'm putting out. And I will see you guys all on my next one. Thanks guys. Bye.